Okay, my friends, percentages without circles. Let's start with a half. That's that same one that we looked at before. 1/2. Now, you say that 1/2, but another way you could say that is 1 divided by 2. Because fraction bar also means, it means per. It also is the indicator of a fraction. But mathematically, it also means the division symbol. So 1 divided by 2. What is 1 divided by 2? Well, if you enter 1 divided by 2 into your calculator, it's going to tell you 0.5. Okay? You can see that I just did it right there while we were talking. What does that mean? 0.5. Well, some of you might look at 0.5 and go, well, that's a half. 0.5 really means 5/10. I'm going to write that over here for just a second. 5/10. And that's how you would read it, because this is the 10th place. So 0.5, that's 5 in the 10th place. 5/10. But the thing you want to remember is there is a number under this 0.5, and that number is 1. Anytime you enter something into a calculator and it spits back an answer for you, that number has a denominator of 1, including this one right here. Now, I'm going to take out the that 10 there, that 5/10 actually, because we are almost to percentage. Check this out. 1 per 2. 1/2, but 1 per 2. 0.5 per 1. In order to get this percent, we just need to get the denominator to be 100. Well, how do you get from 1 to 100? You multiply by 100. You do the exact same thing up top. You multiply by 100. So 0.5 times 100 is 50. Boom, that's it. If you can convert the fraction to a decimal, that decimal is over 1. And then you just use the times 100 times 100 to get it as a percentage. So 1/2 equals 0.5 over 1, which equals 50 over 100. Let's take a look at some more.
Let's revisit our other buddy, 3/4. Now, what is 3 divided by 4? Well, we can use a calculator to do 3 divided by 4. And if we do, we see that it equals 0.75.
Okay, so we have 0.75. I always like to have a leading zero out here, unless it's something else besides 0, but it just is that placeholder for us. We know that has a denominator of 1. 0.75 per 1. We need to get it to be percent, or out of 100. The math is the same as before. We're going to multiply each of these by 100. Now, I want to take a trip back in time. I know at some point you learned this. When you do percentages, you probably learned something along these lines. If you have the decimal, move that point 2 places to the right, and that becomes the percentage. Now, I'm not a huge fan of learning rules without understanding why the rules work, but here's why that rule works. Let's say we take 1 and multiply it by 100. Why does that become 100? Well, it seems pretty obvious as to why. You start with 1. Every time you multiply by a power of 10, the decimal moves 1 time more. So 1 times 10 is 10, and then 10 times 10 again is 100. And 100 is just multiplying by 10 twice. Well, that same thing happens up here. If you multiply 0.75 by 100, you start with 0.75. If you multiply that by 10, the decimal goes 1 to the right, 7.5. And then if you multiply by 10 again, it moves 1 more place to be 75, which means 0.75 times 100 is 75 over 100, or 75%. And that's why the moving the decimal 2 places to the right works to change a per 1 to a per 100. Let's take a look at the next couple.
Okay, 5/8 is up next. Let's go straight to the calculator and divide 5 by 8. All right, it's 0.625, which is 0.625 per 1. So we're going to take that decimal point and move it 2 places to the right, which means 5/8 is 62.5%. Another option you have, if you like, is simply ask Google, what is 5/8 as a percent? And it'll tell you. Pretty rad, huh? Let's do one more. If I recall, 11/17 was the last one I gave you. Let's do it. 11/17 is equal to a pretty horrendous decimal. However, the same skill works here. Move the decimal 2 to the right, and you end up with 64.7% if we round it off. Hey, that's got me thinking. Let's ask Google what's 11/17 as a percent. I wonder what it's going to round off to. Ah, cool, 3 decimals. There's your 64.7%, or a couple more digits if you need more precision.